Okay, I think we're about ready to get started. They're just closing the doors back there if everyone wants to grab a seat. We are going to talk video advertising. You got it? Okay, sounds good. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Julie Perry. We are here today to talk about best practices to optimize the video advertising opportunity. I am your moderator. I am currently a digital media marketing consultant, formerly with Blast Media. I'm still serving as an outside consultant with Blast. Blast is a converged media agency specializing in owned, earned, and paid media. I think like a lot of agencies out there that we're doing, traditionally we were a media relations agency. We picked up doing social, but like a lot of agencies out there, what was really exciting about social in the beginning was we could all be uploading and promoting things online for free, but anymore, like it's been talked about quite a bit today with video marketing, you sort of have to pay to play these days. And I know it was mentioned in the keynote this morning, you know, that the video advertising opportunities are something that can really kick off that viral video and get you that push that you need so that later you can then rely on those videos to pull people in. I have four expert panelists with me here today, and let me introduce them. First of all, we have Mary Griffin. Mary is the media director at Essence. Essence is a new kind of digital agency driven by their clients' unique challenges above all else. Essence is independent, objective, and agile, but also truly global. I believe you have offices in Singapore and London as well, in San Francisco and New York, correct?
Yep. And Seattle.
And where?
Seattle as well.
Seattle, okay, great. Truly a global agency. They're used to working with some of the biggest brands out there. Mary, what are some of the brands that we might be familiar with?
Google is one that you might be familiar with.
Okay, never heard of them. Okay, and also with us today we have Marcus Pratt, and please notice I do have the Twitter handles on here, so for those of you that are tweeting along with us. Marcus is the Director of Insights and Technology at MediaSmith Incorporated. MediaSmith is an independent digital media agency based here in San Francisco. They deliver media strategy to clients and execute paid media campaigns across a variety of digital channels. And then we also have with us today someone from that company that none of us have ever heard of. We have Alex Barza, who is the head of industry in the retail category for Google. So he might just say he's with YouTube. Here today to talk to us about a lot of the opportunities that YouTube now has. I know I've heard a lot of discussions today about the pre-roll advertising, but Alex is going to also tell us about some of the other opportunities that now exist with Google AdWords for video and throughout Google's product offering. And then we also have with us today Keith Eady, who is the Vice President of Marketing at TubeMogul. Actually, you know what? I did want to say a little bit more about Alex quickly, just because everyone knows your company, so we don't really have to tout it. So I wanted to mention that Alex has been with Google since 2006, and he currently has a sales team that works with some of the largest US retail clients, and he consults with Google Search, Display, Video, Commerce, and Analytics offerings. But he got started, you were previously the founding member of the mobile ads unit at Google, correct? Yep. Yeah, and helped launch that. Okay, and then we, as I mentioned, have Keith Eady. He is the Vice President of Marketing at TubeMogul. Many of you have probably heard of TubeMogul. They are actually a sponsor here and a sponsor of this panel. So with that, I'm actually going to turn it over to Keith to quickly, he's going to take 2 minutes just to tell you a little bit more about TubeMogul and what they're up to, because I know I've been used to what their product offering was dating back to about 2007, 2008, but quite a few new things being offered now. So tell us what TubeMogul's up to.
Sure.
And I've got some slides for you.
I'm going to stand up because I feel like I'm missing this quarter of the room. So we do have a long history in video. We're about 5 years old. We started in 2007 with video distribution and analytics, with a lot of creators of content using us to distribute their video to a lot of different video hosting sites. And we've evolved, obviously, over the last 5 years, and we're now sitting squarely in the advertising space. So we describe ourselves as a media buying technology company. And now our clients are all brands and agencies, and we have a software platform that they use to automate the execution of their video advertising campaign. So we've got 3 core principles that we build everything to now, and that's simplify, unify, and verify. So we're working with some of the largest brands and agencies in the world, and we're doing everything, and I hate to use this word, programmatically. And it's this idea of using software to automate the media buying process. So traditionally, and in many cases, the media buying process is still super complex and just riddled with a lot of manual processes. And we're trying to bring software to bear on that problem. So we bring efficiencies to a lot of the brands and agencies who are buying video advertising. And by using a platform that brings together all the inventory sources that can be accessed programmatically, a brand can unify all their video advertising spend through us and then get holistic planning, buying, and measuring. And finally, we've always been huge proponents of transparency and taking data and pushing it out to the advertiser. And a lot of our brethren do not do that as much as we love to see it happen. So verify, 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 verify which sites our clients' ads actually ran on, whether those ads were viewable or not, whether there was brand lift actually generated by the campaign, and just take all that data that we amass, put it into an actionable format, and push it out to our clients. And at the risk of, this is hard for people in the back of the room, but how we're different, we don't ever buy inventory on behalf of our advertisers and resell it. We never own inventory until the time zero of when a campaign starts. So everything's bought in real time. And we're taking a really fragmented digital video audience and aggregating it together by plugging into about 20 OpenRTB exchanges, some TubeMogul exclusive inventory, and then a handful of private marketplaces that premium publishers use to bring their inventory into a programmatic world. And so by doing that, we make all that inventory and all those eyeballs into one big pool of inventory that an advertiser can access extremely easily. And we sort of sit at 2 really big and really fast-growing trends which are going on right now. This idea of programmatic and using software to buy media, and luckily for all of us, the idea that brand dollars are finally coming online, and those brand dollars are primarily being funneled into digital video. And that's TubeMogul. Thank you.
Okay, wonderful. Great. Well, with how we're going to arrange the questions today, there's, I guess it's $4 billion going to be spent in 2013 in video advertising alone. Pretty impressive stuff. And the questions with all these opportunities that are now available to us, I know I'm always used to, from the agency perspective, clients coming to me and saying, oh, we've got this great video, what can you do with it? And I kind of look at it now where from day one to be thinking about, or if you're an agency, talking to the client about kind of taking things in the other direction and first starting out considering where is this ad going to run? What format is it going to run in? And then sort of working backward to then determining what your content's going to be. So with that said, that's how we're going to arrange today's questions. And a lot of talk I've heard today about the pre-roll and through YouTube and those opportunities. But I'd like to talk first about the platforms and the networks that are out there beyond YouTube, and then we'll finish this question with Alex to tell us more about what's going on with Google's product offering. But first, let's talk about platforms and networks. That would be ad exchanges, ad networks. Basically, where can we place these video ads that we ultimately are going to create? And first, I'm going to let Keith go ahead and pick back up kind of where you left off, and then we'll go down the way.
Sure. So we'll make this very fast, but if you could click through this, Julie. It's sort of the chronology of the video buying landscape for the last 5 or 6 years. So before any of the intermediaries existed, at the top, advertisers had to call up websites directly. And if they wanted to aggregate eyeballs, they were calling 100, 200, 300 sites, 200 or 300 contracts, 200 or 300 reports. Obviously very inefficient. So ad networks rose up, and the display ad networks really didn't cross the chasm and come into video. So you had new companies, Tremor, Brightroll, Yumi, really the 3 horsemen of the video ad networks, and they're still around, and Tremor's public, and Yumi's going public. So they're doing fine, but there's some shortcomings, and because there's some shortcomings, ad exchanges cropped up. And number of ad exchanges now, DoubleClick's AdX is the biggest, but a number of video exchanges like BRX from Brightroll and Adapt TV. And now you've had 20 or 25 ad exchanges, so now you've got people on either side of those ad exchanges trying to make them look like one big pool of inventory. So like I said, TubeMogul is one of those platforms that plugs into multiple exchanges and makes all that inventory look like one big pool.
And does real-time bidding as well?
Everything's real time.
Everything's real-time. Okay.
Basically, everything in the exchange world is real-time bidded.
Okay. I was
More or
just,
less.
when I was upstairs finishing up the slides, I noticed TubeMogul tweeted earlier what brand was it that had seen such an incredible lift from the real-time bidding?
Well, there's a number of them. Could have been Lenovo.
It was just, oh well, okay. You're obviously not handling the Twitter.
My social media person
Okay.
is in the audience. I'm sure she would know. But.
Okay, that's great. So we're going to go on down the way. Marcus, maybe you can tell us a little bit, and I'm going to place this up there for those of you on Twitter while they're talking.
Yeah, I mean, I think we've seen kind of the same evolution. We used to buy a lot from folks like Tremor Media and those video ad networks, and we're seeing they're still around, but their business model has changed a bit, and some of them, like Brightroll, are kind of, they're ad networks and they're also ad exchanges, so we might not have to work with them directly in order to buy the inventory that they have. And at the same time, a lot of those networks are buying on the exchanges, like the Googles of the world, to get access to YouTube. So certainly the platform-based approach that TubeMogul has is one that we've embraced. We see in the display space for standard banner ads that has happened. It's a little bit more mature, and that the inventory has become somewhat commoditized. A lot of it is accessible. You can reach nearly anyone on a variety of websites programmatically, as we love to say. But I think in the video space in particular, there's still, it's worth noting, some inventory that's not that accessible through the exchanges or even through the networks. So
When you say not that accessible, you mean for all of us that are
yeah, in terms of how you have to buy it. So Hulu is a great example. For pretty much all the inventory on Hulu, you have to go to Hulu to buy it, or buy it from the networks that actually run the programming. And even if you go direct to Hulu, you can't say, I want to buy a pre-roll ad in Modern Family. You have to go straight to the network to get that, and sometimes that'll be bundled in with a broadcast media buy or something on their website. So there is a certain amount of what we like to call sort of premium inventory, which is more of that long form that delivers pretty highly engaged users. Sometimes that tends to be a little bit more expensive, and we're seeing some of that is coming online in the ad exchanges, and we can get at some of that, and certainly a lot of it that's up on YouTube is available for us to serve ads against, but there is still some of that that's locked up on places like CBS.com or Fox or Hulu, and you kind of have to go straight to the publishers in order to advertise there.
For all types of formats, which we'll touch on later, but we're not just talking pre-roll, because that's sort of been the theme of most of the sessions I've been in.
Right, so that would be generally to serve an ad alongside the video, whatever form it might be.
Alongside, so like banner ad next to
Yeah, banner ad next to it, or a pre-roll ad, or something maybe interactive, an overlay type unit. We don't see as much of those on the long form 30, 60-minute television shows, but that's mostly pre-roll. If you want to get pre-roll in front of Modern Family, you're probably not going to be able to do that programmatically today.
Got it. Okay. Mary, what's your experience with?
Sure. I would agree with what the gentlemen have laid out. I think some other interesting spaces that are coming up are in the native space. So companies like Natively and ShareThrough are actually creating engines that you can insert your video content into the native environment. So ShareThrough, for example, they kind of have an ad generator where you put your ad or your content into it, and it will sort of populate it amongst like various blogs and content, and it'll look like the actual content excuse me, that the users are reading. So think about sponsored posts and things like that, but taking it from a video format and actually making it very easy to manage that across multiple sites. Natively, they actually have a tool that can actually insert your video content into the hero reel of a website. So that's also pretty impactful. But yeah, I mean, I think for us, it's about managing inventory. We use networks, but it's a very scary place for us to put brands There's not a ton of control. Tube Mobile definitely is filling a void and having the transparency. But even with large player ad networks that specialize in video, there's still an element of, you know, the less respectable activity that we saw with standard display networks is creeping up more and more as video networks continue to try and drive scale and reach. So we're really focused on making sure we have a really strong balance of having control and insight to where the video is running.
Great, okay. Alex, maybe you can tell us a bit more about what our options are, because I know outside of the networks, things within just Google AdWords for video.
Sure. Would you mind going to my first slide? And thanks for having me. So, you know, TrueView, we've talked a lot about TrueView today. For those of you that are not familiar with TrueView, TrueView basically provides advertisers with an audience that they want, but also an audience who wants them. It's an ad format that enables video viewers to select the videos that they choose to see. Now, there are a couple different flavors of TrueView. I'm just going to very quickly walk through them. In the upper right-hand side, you have TrueView and search. You can basically think of that the same way as Google.com search. An advertiser's video ad will show up at the top of the search results when a user is searching for content that's relevant to their brand or product or services that they offer. The beauty of it is that you only pay when a user clicks on that ad and watches that video. In the upper left-hand corner is TrueView and Stream, which is basically a video that pops up and starts playing when a user is on a YouTube watch page. They then have the opportunity to skip the video after 5 seconds. Again, an advertiser is only charged if the user watches 30 seconds of video or more, or if the video is shorter than 30 seconds, it's whatever the length of the video is. So it's highly effective. If you're an advertiser and your video is 30 seconds and people only watch 25 seconds repeatedly, then you're not charged anything for that view. On the bottom left-hand side is TrueView and Display. That runs across YouTube and our Google Display Network. Same concept as TrueView and Stream. And then the last one is TrueView in Slate, which Julie was asking me about, which is basically on long-form content or videos that we have on YouTube. We give video viewers the option to select one of 3 advertisers' videos to watch at the beginning and then be able to watch that entire content without any interruption, or they can skip the beginning portion and have some videos throughout that content. And overall, when we surveyed people, 9 out of 10 actually said that they prefer the TrueView format versus being forced to watch a pre-roll video. So it's worked extremely well for us. And if you would go to the next slide, I only have time to give you guys a little bit of a taste of some of the YouTube offerings, but I also wanted to highlight for advertisers that are looking for really broad reach, large scale to create buzz. The YouTube homepage, Roadblock, it delivers about 60 million impressions in a single day. It's a 24-hour takeover of YouTube, which is, you know, the world's largest video destination. We've seen a number of advertisers use this when they're doing product launches. As you see up there on the masthead today, it's the Wolverine movie trailer for the upcoming launch of the Wolverine movie. And we've seen retailers use this, especially during the holidays. If you think of Black Friday, Cyber Monday, and those kind of events, that's when you would use it. And one more slide. And lastly, we live in a multi-platform, multi-device world. And what Google has recognized is that we have to innovate for mobile in everything that we do. So everything that I've talked to you about previously on the other 2 slides actually works seamlessly on mobile. One of the things, YouTube Mobile is now the #1 mobile video site in the world. It's the #2 most watched video site in the world behind YouTube Desktop. And about a quarter of all video views that are happening on YouTube are happening on mobile. So mobile's obviously huge, and a lot of people have recognized that. We have about 1 billion video views per day, so it's a pretty massive number, and all of these formats that I've just talked to you about are available and seamlessly work across mobile devices.
Great, and to access TrueView now, you must go through Google AdWords for video, correct?
That's correct.
Okay, so just so everyone's aware, because I know there's been a lot of talk here about advertising with YouTube, you do have to have an AdWords account, and then when you go in, you actually go to video campaigns, and that's where you set things up. And great, thank you for that overview. Okay, so this is a quick question, so we're just going to boom, boom, boom all the way down the line here, 1 minute. And I want to talk about ad effectiveness. So when we're planning campaigns, we can think about these different networks, we can think about ad exchanges, Then I think the next question within that, though, is what's our goal? What are we aiming for? A lot of people have talked about doing video ads just for brand awareness, but some of these ads are clickable. You can click through, or they have banner ads where are we looking at click-through rate? So I want to go down quickly and have everyone kind of tell us what are some KPIs, how do you handle measurement, what are the analytics opportunities, and what should be our goal when planning video advertising campaigns?
You can have whatever goal you want for planning for your video campaign. Just make sure you know what your goal is going in, and then you're optimizing to that goal. And don't think that those goals can be done simultaneously. So we've got lots of research that shows clicks and brand awareness are inversely correlated to each other. So if you're trying to optimize for clicks, but you're also running a brand campaign, generally does not work. So I'd say 90 to 95% of the campaigns we run are brand metric-driven campaigns.
Okay, and then what things do you then measure by?
So completions are actually a very good proxy for brand
engagement.
lift, and then we've got an integrated survey module that actually measures all those brand metrics as the campaign runs.
And that's within the
within the platform.
Platform, fantastic. Marcus?
Definitely agree with Keith. I think the majority of the video work that we do is targeted more towards raising brand awareness, and we've also done some work with the sort of survey, before and after, or a control and expose group to determine what that lift is. That said, there can be a use of video to sell a product. It's just not always the most efficient thing because it does cost a little bit more than things like regular Google AdWords or standard display. So you can also look at things like traffic to your website. We'll look at engagement beyond just completion rate, but things like if you have an interactive pre-roll, are people engaging with that? So you can say, roll over this ad and explore a little bit more, or watch a longer trailer than our 30-second one. So that can be a really good measurement, is to get that engagement, but also just visitation back to a client's website. So if somebody watches our video and then we see that they either immediately click through on our companion banner ad, or a couple days later come back to the website, we know that we've broken through and we've gotten some engagement out of them. Typically we'll then follow up with them through another means and try and close the loop to get them to make a purchase. So video can be very good as that initial touch point on a path to purchase.
I think the sort of consensus is video is much more powerful as a branding tool than direct response. We definitely use brand lift studies. One thing I would add to that is we take a look at how video affects our other channels. So if we put video in the market, is that going to increase our brand searches, or can it increase overall conversion rates for our down funnel activity, or even offline activity? So for example, we've seen success where we inject video weight in a certain market where a client is running direct mail, and we'll actually see direct mail conversions go up when the video is running in those select markets. So we kind of think of it as a holistic landscape, and really try to measure how all the pieces work together versus any single channel.
Yeah, I would echo what my friends up here have mentioned. I think there are so many different approaches you can take from branding and even DR. Right now, my team focuses on working with a lot of retail advertisers that really want DR and e-commerce. So we've had a lot of tests, and some of those tests have proven to be unsuccessful. But I think I'm hopeful because I think the ad units are improving, the analytics and attribution is improving, and we're starting to see some pockets of opportunity or areas where retailers have been able to drive performance. And there's one example that I'd like to highlight for you guys. TRX, it's a company that makes those like exercise equipment bands and things like that. They use TrueView, and they actually decreased average cost per conversion by 65%. And they found that in the last holiday season, 7% of their online sales actually came from TrueView. And post that, they found it to be one of the most effective marketing channels. So things like that really inspire me because I think things are turning around a bit for video and for DR. But I do agree with other panelists that it is today, for all intents and purposes, primarily for branding.
Now, Aura Brush, was anyone in that particular, yes, that was a really interesting case study. For those of you that are unfamiliar with it, you might look it up, but they have pretty much built their entire business right off of YouTube and using video. And I believe they put in about $1 million. Paul, you were in that session. It was about $1 million they spent in ads.
They bought 11 million views.
About 11 million views, but then they
Made 18.
made 18. Yeah. So again, the initial push, getting it out there, putting a little money behind it, as long as you're optimizing it properly. But big success stories out there. So I want to talk ad formats now, because this is kind of the big question of the day. Now, there's been a lot of talk, as I mentioned again, pre-roll ads. But I also hear from people that pre-roll ads are frustrating and annoying, and people will say, well, I walk away with a negative impression of a brand if they're forcing me to watch a pre-roll ad. TrueView, obviously, they're skippable ads, but I think we all have experienced maybe going over to YouTube and having an ad that we are unable to skip, and the frustration we feel is we have to sit there for 30 seconds and oftentimes see just a repurposed television commercial. I tend to walk away and say, I'm never buying that product. So I want to talk about formats, but let's focus on pre-roll first. And does making them skippable make a difference? And then across these ad networks where they're not, what are you learning? What are you finding? And you know, what can we say about the effectiveness and what we're looking for? Kind of going back to that KPI question, click through and things like that. Who are we starting with here? Let's start with Keith.
Okay. What I'll say is in almost all cases, while I find them annoying too, if you're after brand lift, pre-roll is the most cost-effective format of any video option out there. And most of our brands have 30 or 15-second creatives that they are repurposing. And most of the research shows that running that creative across TV and then running it online, actually the combination lifts it higher than just running TV or just running digital alone. So we're seeing that happen a lot more, and having a digital component complement a TV buy.
Really?
I think I've got a few things here. I won't. So this is interesting. This is why I said earlier that completion rates are often a proxy for brand lift. Both of these clusters of columns show brand lift, but the blue is the average lift that we're seeing for these two metrics, favorability and message association, across all our campaigns. And the green bars indicate the brand lift that we saw for everyone who completed the pre-roll. So you can see that completions have a huge impact on driving the brand lift higher than the average. And I've got a few more. This was interesting. Running your 30 or 15-second pre-roll in prime time, the 6 to 10 p.m. slot, had a huge lift over running it across the day, or the brand lift that was on average recorded across the day.
So if they're seeing it on the big screen and then
Yeah, there seems to be
watching
some.
multiple screens at the same time,
Exactly. Yeah, the second screening effect and the combination of seeing it close together drove lift. And one more. And this is, I think Mary mentioned it, or Marcus did. Interactivity is huge across all formats, but especially pre-roll. Driving that dwell time up by providing a rich content experience inside the video player goes a long way to lifting your brand over regular pre-roll. I'll leave it at that.
Okay, great. I'm going to jump down to Alex.
Yeah, so I think for us, if you would go to this slide, there are a number of different ways you can measure, and this slide kind of bridges between this question and the previous question. These are just some of the ways that some of the advertisers that we work with are approaching it in the upper funnel down to the lower funnel. Everything from upper funnel and in terms of impressions, views, likes, shares, so on and so forth, all the way down to e-commerce and acquisition. I think personally, skippable ads do make a bit of a difference, and I approach it from more of a DR landscape because a lot of my advertisers that we work with are very DR oriented. And from some of the research, Ipsos did a study recently that said 85% of people who elect to watch an ad are actually highly engaged. 85% are highly engaged versus ones who are forced to watch a pre-roll. That number drops by about 50%. So sometimes the pre-roll isn't the best for the end user. Also, I wanted to share an example of ModCloth, which is a apparel retailer. They're doing some innovative things. They're an online pure play retailer. They wanted to drive awareness and audience engagement, and they used YouTube to drive 1 million views. They had a click-through rate, and I was talking to Keith before the panel, and he's seeing this too, 18% click-through rate via TrueView on YouTube. And actually, and I'm reading this because I want to make sure I get these stats correct, they've been able to reach more customers at a ninth of the cost of their search campaigns using TrueView. So that's one area where they actually have seen phenomenal performance across TrueView. So I think, as Keith mentioned, set your goals, figure out what you want to do, figure out if you're trying to drive brand or if you're trying to drive commerce or whatever it is. There's a lot of different approaches you can take here, and then move forward. And I would say just keep testing and iterating, test, iterate, test, iterate.
Now, when you say click through, are you referring to clicking, or does it matter, clicking through on the video itself versus the companion banner?
On the video itself.
On the video itself.
Yeah.
I often wonder, do people realize yet that, because we'll run pre-roll campaigns and then we'll show the client the click-through rate, but the time on site sometimes isn't so impressive, and I'll think, well, was that just someone trying to skip the ad and they accidentally clicked it and that's how they got over there? I mean, but then there's the companion banner, and I think people need to realize that too, that the companion banner stays up. So does everyone know what I'm talking about? You'll get the pre-roll and you'll get the chance to skip it, and even if you skip it, the companion banner stays up there. So, and you can do those as animated GIFs now, correct? Or Swift files? They can.
I believe so, yeah.
Yeah, I think that's really effective. So even if you've gone on to watch the video that you intended to watch, you'll still have some semblance there.
Action.
Action
Up
to
in
take.
the upper right.
Okay, so you're not distinguishing then the difference between if they click through on the video or click through on the companion?
I
It's just-
believe
you
this
say that-
is both the
just get
video
it.
and the companion if they're running simultaneously, but I don't have the actual data to say with 100% certainty.
Got it. Okay. And again, I think everyone should also be reminded that you don't pay for the impression up to 30 seconds if it's over 30 seconds, and you say if it's under 30 seconds, you pay only if they watch the full ad.
So if your ad is over 30 seconds in length, they have to watch 30 seconds or more of it in order for the advertiser to get charged. If your ad is, let's say, 25 seconds in length as its maximum time, then you would get charged at the 25-second mark because it's the entire
Sure.
video.
Okay, and that's, I think, very important for people to realize when planning your content, how long you want to make these ads. If you do 34 seconds, then you're just over that 30-second mark, but you don't pay until they've reached the 30-second mark. So you
Right.
get a whole impression
Yeah.
so you can get pretty strategic with that. And speaking of which, as I go to Marcus and Mary, if you guys even have any success stories that you can tell us about with some of your clients, or maybe some best practices with pre-roll, or just what you look at when you're measuring success for your clients.
Sure. I think it's interesting you asked the question, should pre-roll be skippable? Is it annoying if it's not? And I mean, of course, if you go and survey 100 consumers and say, hey, do you guys like advertising? Most of them aren't going to say, oh yeah, I love it. Give me more advertising in my life. If television ads were skippable, people would skip them, right? You're sitting there, you don't want to watch it, but they're kind of used to it. So I think on the one hand, I feel like, people should stop complaining and sit there and watch a 15-second pre-roll ad for their free content. On the other hand, I think that some publishers have done a disservice to their users by saying, hey, we're going to put a 90-second video and a 15-second ad in front of it. And there's not a lot of benefit there, I think, from the user standpoint to sit through an entire advertisement and then just get a little bit of a snippet. And that's where you're seeing, I think, some of that particular backlash. So definitely like what YouTube is doing, kind of with the skippable pre-roll to make that a little bit more user-friendly. Whether people are not skipping it because they really love the ads and want to see them, or because, hey, it's only another 10 to 25 seconds, I'll just sit through it. If they're not sitting there right on the mouse, they're not going to want to skip it. I'm not sure, but I don't think that that's going to become the norm for all video advertising. We talk about giving the consumer more control, and I think that they are getting that with DVR. You can skip the commercials on your television, and with skippable ads, you can skip them, but I don't think that we're going to move to a position where you can just say, oh, I'll take the advertising free version of life and the internet. So people are going to get used to that, and I think we're seeing that now in the brand lift that we see, the response rates. To your point, I think that some of that click-through rate can be accidental, where people are not sure that a video ad is clickable. They're trying to pause or skip it. It's similar to what we call in mobile kind of the fat finger syndrome. So we certainly look out for that in kind of mobile pre-roll. But I think that now for a platform like YouTube, most people that are watching a video on YouTube, it's not their first time. They're not saying, whoa, what is this ad? I could click on it. They're getting used to it. So I have pretty good trust in those kind of metrics and the validity there.
Mary, your experience with pre-roll?
Yeah, so I mean, we have a lot of experience with pre-roll and skippable ads. We're doing a ton of business with TrueView in particular. We see about 80% of people skip ads. So I think in general, people don't want to watch ads. The challenge is you're trying to create a brand or change a perception. There's a huge reach issue for us because the people who opt in to watch your ad probably are people that already like your brand. So being able to get out there and talk to people or change perceptions is extremely hard to do through skippable ads. But if you have an audience that you want to engage, then it's a great platform. I would just like caveat it's wildly expensive if you think about it. So you can pay 10 cents for a view, but that's $100 CPM. You would never go out and spend $100 CPM on video. So you have to get around the economy of it before you just say, oh, it's so efficient and it's so inexpensive to get those views, because you have to understand who's going to actually be watching and what that view means to you, and are you willing to pay $100 CPM for it?
Right. Well, and that's something that we haven't really touched on with the targeting capabilities, though, of being able to hone in on your target market. And
yeah, it's wildly addressable. I think that creates a lot of uniqueness. But if you're, doing those old school, tried and true reach and frequency goals, it's extremely difficult to use anything other than pre-roll.
Right. Okay. Well, let's talk about things though other than pre-roll and what other options are out there. If not pre-roll, then what? Because it tends to be the default because it's so easy. But we're talking about the eventually the skip reflex becoming almost something that we're just all accustomed to doing. So I want to talk about some alternative formats and maybe what's the best format for e-commerce. What about branded content, for example? I don't know if any of you have any experience with that, but if you do, let us know. And maybe even longer form series or sponsorships, click to play, and what about search on YouTube? These are just some questions, maybe even how the price compares or mobile. We'll just go down the line and let everyone comment. Mary, we'll start with you again.
I think this kind of ties into what the first question, just about where you can buy video. I think the only thing I would add also is the landscape of value exchange is very interesting. So rather than having that skip option, it's almost like opting in. So users, let's take the example of playing a game and they do something, there's a reward or there's an exchange. If you watch this video from a brand advertiser, we'll give you value, has been really successful.
There's a lot of that on Facebook, right? With watching video.
Facebook, there's tons and tons of companies that have kind of started adopting this model. One of the newer ones is a company called Keep, so KIIP, and it's really about bringing what they call branded moments. When someone does something positive, and this is throughout all apps, so even like health apps and things like that, if you achieve a 10-mile run, you get sort of a congratulations from a brand, watch this video, things like that. So there's certainly new and innovative ways that are kind of coming up in various spaces around the landscape.
Okay, great. Marcus?
Yeah, I think you mentioned sort of branded content, and I think on the last panel this came up a little bit, as well as I think there's this concept that maybe advertisers or marketers should start acting more like newsrooms. And you've seen, I think there have been some people that have produced full television shows, and they're brought to you by a brand, and it's the Cottonelle family. Let's see what they're up to. I've seen some success stories there, but I would say that that's probably not going to work for 99% of people out there. In my opinion, most movies produced by Hollywood suck, and they don't do that well at the box office, and that's what they do for a living. So if you're a consumer packaged goods company or somebody selling something, you're gonna have to make something really good for me to take 30 minutes and watch that. I've got At home, I've got Dexter, I've got, you know, Game of Thrones. Those are sitting on my DVR just waiting to be watched. So why am I going to want to fire up some toilet paper TV show? That said, if you find something that's great, and, you know, maybe we'll see some brands starting to hire away, you know, true creatives, that might work, but they're going to have to pay an awful lot for it on the production side. And then also on the distribution side, you've got to get it out, and pre-roll is not going to be great for a 30-minute. I think, you know, it's going to have to be really good, or people are going to hit that skip button a minute or two into it. So we see there things like the YouTube search product can be very good. If I'm looking for one particular piece of content and you serve me, hey, watch this other video, and I'm clicking on it, I'm opting in, I'm engaged, then you might be able to get me to stay for a little while longer. Or as Mary mentioned, sort of some of the viral things where you package it into a brand's website and it's listed as sponsored, but it's not something that's just there in your face. You're scrolling through and looking at some content, you say, hey, that looks interesting, I'll play it. I feel like that is going to be a better environment for the longer form content that we're seeing more and more brands want to seed and get out there.
Great. Alex?
Yeah, Marcus touched on this a little bit about TrueView in search. Basically, when people are searching for your products and services on YouTube, it's a great opportunity to be there. I'm constantly surprised by the number of brands who actually don't search on their own brand terms on YouTube to see what the experience is like. So if you guys haven't done that in the last couple months, I encourage you to go home. Not tonight, because it's Friday night. I would say go out to dinner and spend time with your family. But next Monday, when you get back to the office, do a search for your brand, do a search for the products and services that you sell, see what the experience is like, see if you're happy with it, see if you're discoverable and present. I'm noticing a lot of retailers out there are creating content. I think Zappos might be in the room, Pottery Barn, Nordstrom. They all have great video content on their sites, but it's often not discoverable. So that's one of the things we talk about. Then this one is an example of some other products that we're developing. This one highlights annotation. So this is a promotional video for the city of Portland, and everything that you see around this person is actually clickable. So the video is going on, he's sitting in a chair, and he has all these products around him, and he's talking to you in the video, and you can actually click on everything. And you can see in the upper right-hand corner, we've highlighted an annotation around a blouse from Etsy. You can actually click on that blouse and then be taken directly to that product page on Etsy's website. So this is one of the ways which we are working to tie in commerce a little bit more directly with video. If you go to the next slide, this is an example of Bally's. Again, a different format where they're filming a photo shoot, and actually there's a woman with her clutch and there are models walking around with their clothes, and there are annotations that are popping up. So if you see a clutch or a blazer or a pant that you like, you can actually click on it and be taken over to Bally's website in order to purchase that product. And I believe last but not least is a Tresemme example. This one's pretty brand new. We actually haven't shared this one publicly very much. And this is Tresemme's channel on YouTube. This is the home channel. You can see they have a lot of great how-to videos. They're helping consumers with utility and all this other stuff. But you can now see there's actually a buy now button. So you can actually buy products directly from YouTube. And when you click on that buy now button, one more time, it actually brings up products, and you can select the product, and then it'll show you which one of the retail partners that they're partnered with actually sell that product. So in this particular case, you can select a conditioner. It shows you that Amazon, CVS, Soap.com carry it, and you can click again, and you're actually taken to your cart, where you can actually add it to your cart in Amazon and go on and complete your purchase. So these are some of the things we're trying to do on YouTube to make it a little bit more commerce friendly, because there's such a high demand from retailers and DR advertisers that really want to drive direct response and e-commerce out of it.
Great. I know we got started 5 minutes late, and I'm looking down. I've got, it's about 3:49. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to go to Keith to answer this question, and then we're just going to end quickly by going down and having everybody give one tip with advertising, maybe from the content perspective, in planning content for any of these formats. But first, I'll go ahead and let Keith address this question.
Yeah, I've got one more slide. I'm violating the cardinal rule of presentations, which is not too many graphs, but I'm hoping all of you like data. So I think the important point with multiple ad formats is just figure out what the use case is. And for us, we have pre-roll, we have putting video in display, we have social video, we have mobile, and we have connected TV. So we're trying to be a single platform for all video formats. We find our brands come to us with those branded content pieces, and they can only run them in places where you're user-initiated video format, so either in display or in social. And so those are obviously ideal, and you can't run it in pre-roll, so they're kind of your only options. And when you compare those, social on Facebook often wins out. So if you're comfortable with the audiences you can get inside Facebook games and applications, we find that some of the most successful video formats.
Which includes things like what, like Words with Friends? And
All of those,
Okay.
thousands and thousands of those social games, yeah.
Okay, that's great. So then we'll end on this content topic, and we'll just go right down the way and have everybody give their number one tip for planning content for video advertising, regardless of format.
So a lot of people ask us whether it should be repurposed TV or custom, and we partner with Dynamic Logic to do a study and try and figure that out. And going back to what I said before, if you're trying to drive awareness, then use the TV spot, because when you couple it on the two mediums, it actually drives awareness up. If you're trying to drive purchase intent and get a little closer to the DR goals, then custom made-for-web video works better.
What about length?
It's all over the map in terms of goals versus actions. Generally, shorter is better, but you see some fantastic branded content that's 60 to 90 seconds that works really well.
That's like the click to play, because you guys do banners that run and then the video plays within the banner, correct?
If a user chooses to watch it, yes.
If it's click to play. Okay, great. How about you, Marcus?
I would just say, no matter what you're doing, make sure that it's engaging right from the beginning. Think about having 3 to 5 seconds to get somebody's attention, and you either better deliver your entire message in that time and say, "Hi, we're selling deodorant, buy," or get somebody engaged and get them to watch the entire, whether it's 15, 30, or 90 seconds, because even if they don't have that skip button that you see on YouTube, if people are not into it, then they might flip over to another tab, they might look away, they might hit mute. I think that's going to be more and more true, and I would say the same thing to television advertisers as well.
So just jump out of the box, right, Adam? We talked about that yesterday, someone was saying don't put the bumpers, long bumpers at the beginning. And with your ads, you really don't want to waste time. What were those monster truck commercials where they Tuesday, Tuesday, Tuesday? I mean, you really just got to jump right out at people if you're doing the skippable, correct? I think so. There are creative approaches where you can really try and draw somebody in and get their attention to say, I wonder what's coming next, but that's an art form. I'm a media guy, so I will leave it to the creative directors out there to do that. I will say that oftentimes it doesn't work that well, so you better have a really, really strong creative idea that's going to lure that person in, and make sure that there is a hook, that it's not just okay, well that was kind of boring for 5 seconds. I don't want to see the rest of it. Right. Okay, Mary?
I would say I definitely agree about the content in terms of skippable. It can't be your TV ad. It doesn't work. We've tested. It doesn't work. It has to be something that's engaging. But I think my biggest tip would just be, if it sounds too good to be true, it probably is. There's a lot of companies that want to sell you a lot of stuff that they will say is innovative, the best thing, or the cheapest CPM. You should be wary of that. There's a lot of opportunity for video to be sold as a pre-roll, but it's actually an in-banner video that is autoplay, which is a terrible, terrible place to be for your brand. Yeah. So just be be positive, but always have that lens of critical sort of skepticism when you're vetting.
Okay, and we'll end with Alex, and I've got this slide for you.
Yeah, we have a slide. I'm not going to go through all these, but I think I echo what the other panelists said, is just make it really engaging and capture the viewer's attention, specifically within the first 5 seconds. What our research shows is that people decide to skip within the first 5 to 15 seconds, so you have a very limited window in order to capture their attention and keep it. And I'd also say shorter is better. From the research that we have, 15-second typically works a little bit better than 30-second, though I would agree with other panelists, there are instances where longer works better. Movie trailers, for example, the TRX case study that I shared with you previously in the presentation, they actually used 1 minute to 3 minute long videos. So there are instances where explaining your product and the benefits of that product actually makes sense, and you do get performance. So generally speaking, go shorter unless you have some really good stuff and you're selling, then go longer.
What about celebrities? Any of you had any results with getting the YouTube celebrities in the content? Is that help at all? None of you? Okay. I know that Orabrush had that example this morning when Charles Trippy did a video with them. So sometimes going after the YouTube celebrities, and I know at Last Media we've done that, where we go out and get some of the reviewers to review products too, is another good way. And that about wraps it up. Sorry we didn't have time for questions from you, but I think we got a lot of information out of our experts here, so great. And you guys, if you want to stick around, people might come bombard you. Thank you very much.